There's a certain kind of darkness that doesn't just visit, it moves in, unpacks its bags in the shadowed corners of your mind, and becomes a permanent resident. That's what a truly great horror ending does. It's not just about the jump scare or the final girl's bloody triumph. It's about the silence that follows, the image burned onto your retinas, the question that echoes long after the credits roll. Today we're not just watching movies, we're inviting those phantoms in. We're going to journey through 42 of the most twisted, soul-shattering, and utterly unforgettable final acts in horror history. And I invite you to come along with me, to stare into that abyss together. The challenge I've set for myself, a fool's errand perhaps, is to try and maintain some semblance of composure, to keep a straight face as we revisit these cinematic nightmares. It's an exercise in futility, I know. How can one remain stoic when faced with the pure, unadulterated dread of a perfect, horrifying conclusion? These aren't just endings, they are scars. They're the moments that redefined the genre, that made us sleep with the lights on, that made us question the very fabric of reality or sanity, or the person sitting next to us in the dark. They are beautiful, grotesque, and they never ever let you go. So, get comfortable. Or don't. Maybe you should be on the edge of your seat. We're about to explore the architecture of fear, the final, terrifying brushstrokes of masterpieces designed to leave us utterly, completely, and beautifully speechless. We're looking at the endings that stick with you, the ones that become a part of your own personal horror story. From the existentially bleak to the viscerally shocking, these are the 42 endings that prove the most terrifying monsters are the ones that follow you home. Let the show begin. We begin with the mother of all modern horror, the film that sent people running from theaters. The ending of The Exorcist isn't just a scene, it's a cultural trauma. We've weathered the storm with Father Karras and Marin, we've seen the unspeakable, but the climax is a symphony of blasphemy and desperation. That head spin, it's not just a special effect, it's a violation of the natural order, a grotesque ballet of possession that feels so horribly, viscerally real. It's the ultimate symbol of innocence corrupted, the human form twisted into a puppet for something ancient and obscene. The guttural snarls, the spider walk, it all culminates in this final, desperate act of sacrifice. The true horror, the part that settles deep in your bones, is Father Karras's choice. He invites the demon into himself, a final, selfless act to save Regan. For a fleeting moment, his face contorts, becoming the vessel for that pure evil, before he hurls himself through the window. It's a tragic Pyrrhic victory. Regan is saved, but at what cost? She remembers nothing, left with a benign kiss for the clerical collar, while the audience is left with the full, damning weight of the cost of her soul. The evil isn't truly vanquished, it's just been passed on, and the silence in that clean, quiet bedroom is somehow more deafening than the chaos that preceded it. If The Exorcist is about the evil within, The Shining is about the evil that surrounds, the very architecture of madness. The final moments are a masterclass in ambiguity, leaving you in a state of perpetual unease. After Jack Torrance freezes to death in the labyrinthine hedge maze, a monument to his own lost mind, we think we've found our resolution. Wendy and Danny have escaped the Overlook's icy grasp. But Kubrick isn't interested in resolution, he's interested in the eternal. The camera glides through the hotel's hallways, a ghostly presence itself, pushing past the ghosts of parties past. It settles on a wall of photographs, zeroing in on one from the Overlook's 4th of July ball in 1921, and there he is, Jack. Grinning at the camera, front and center, looking as if he's always belonged. The implications are staggering and chillingly endless. Was he a reincarnation of a former caretaker? Has his soul been absorbed by the hotel, another fixture in its haunted collection? Or the most terrifying thought of all, has he always been the caretaker? The ending doesn't give you an answer. It gives you a question that haunts you, suggesting that evil is not an event but a cycle, and the Overlook is always waiting for its family to come home. In the early 2000s, one film made the VCR, our trusted source of entertainment, the most terrifying object in the house. The Ring didn't just scare us, it updated the very concept of a curse for the technological age. The ending is a brutal, cold, and brilliant subversion of our expectations. Rachel has survived her 7 days. She's solved the mystery, freed Samara's body from the well, and believes she has broken the cycle. She holds her son Noah, promising him that it's all over. We, the audience, breathe a collective sigh of relief. We followed the rules, we've won the game, but the game was never fair. The nosebleed, the handprint on the TV screen, the dread creeps back in with icy certainty. The horror of The Ring's ending is its clinical, procedural nature. Samara crawls out of the television not in a burst of jump-scare fury but with a glitchy, unnatural crawl of virus-made flesh. And then, the awful realization dawns on Rachel. And on us. She wasn't spared because she freed Samara. She was spared because she made a copy. The only way to survive is to become a purveyor of the curse, to condemn someone else. It's a horrifyingly parasitic brand of evil, and the final shot of Rachel helping Noah make his own copy is one of the most chilling acts of maternal love ever put to film. Jordan Peele's is a film that weaponizes social anxiety and turns it into pure, undiluted horror. The ending is a masterstroke, a release of tension that is immediately replaced by a new, more insidious kind of dread. As Chris, battered and bloodied, stands over the dying Rose, we hear the wail of a police siren. Our hearts sink. We've seen this movie before. A black man, a white woman's body at his feet. We know how this story is supposed to end. In that single moment, Peele holds up a mirror to the audience's own ingrained biases and the systemic horrors that are all too real. The relief when the car door opens to reveal his friend Rod is immense and cathartic. But the true horror isn't in what could have happened, but in what happened. The final shot is Chris and Rod driving away, leaving Rose to bleed out on the road. But look at Chris's eyes. He is not triumphant, he is haunted. He escaped the Armitage's surgical suite, but a part of him will forever be in the sunken place. The film's social commentary crystallizes in this moment. You can survive the monstrous event, but the trauma, the scars left by a world that views you as a commodity, remains. It's a victory, but a deeply, profoundly damaged one. For 90 minutes holds us in a state of absolute nerve-shredding silence. We've learned the rules alongside the Abbott family. Sound is death. The ending is not a quiet resolution but a deafening roar of defiance and empowerment. After the heartbreaking sacrifice of the father Lee, the family is cornered in the basement, the creatures closing in. All hope seems lost. The tension is unbearable, a pressure cooker of grief and fear. We've been conditioned to believe that any noise is a fatal mistake. But then, Reagan, using the cochlear implant her father built for her, discovers the monster's weakness. The feedback from the implant cripples the creature, exposing the vulnerable flesh beneath its armored head. It's a beautiful poetic turn. The very thing that marked her as different, her deafness, becomes their greatest weapon. The final sequence is a stunning reversal of power. Evelyn, no longer a terrified victim but a fierce protector, cocks the shotgun, a look of grim determination on her face. The creatures on the monitors are coming, but for the first time, the family is ready. It's an ending that doesn't promise safety, but it promises a fight. It's a scream of hope in a world of silence. Is less a monster movie and more a profound, terrifying exploration of grief. The creature is not just a top-hatted boogeyman from a pop-up book, it's the physical manifestation of Amelia's unresolved trauma and depression over her husband's death. The final act isn't about vanquishing the monster with a magic spell or a silver bullet, it's about confronting it, acknowledging it, and learning to live with it. After a harrowing possession sequence, Amelia finally stands up to the Babadook, screaming at it, asserting her control over her own house and her own mind. The monster recedes, not into nothingness, but into the basement. The ending is what makes this film a masterpiece of psychological horror. We see Amelia, calmer now, collecting a bowl of earthworms. She takes it down to the basement where the Babadook still snarls and thrashes in the darkness. She soothes it, feeds it, and then locks the door. It's a stunning metaphor for mental illness and grief. You can't simply kill your demons. You have to acknowledge their presence, tend to them, and keep them in a place where they can't control you. It's a messy, difficult, and deeply human conclusion, suggesting that healing isn't about forgetting the darkness, but learning to be its warden. James Wan is honestly a maestro of classical ghost train horror and is his magnum opus. The ending is this full-throated, terrifying, and ultimately triumphant battle between good and evil. It's not just a haunted house, it's a demonic infestation, all centered on the witch Bathsheba's curse. The final confrontation isn't just about chanting Latin, it's about the emotional and spiritual stakes for everyone involved. Carolyn Perrone, fully possessed, is, like, moments away from sacrificing her own daughter, a horrifying echo of Bathsheba's original sin. The tension is cranked up to an almost unbearable level, but the brilliance of the ending lies in how Ed and Lorraine Warren win. It's not through brute force but through a profound act of empathy. Lorraine forces Carolyn to remember a cherished family memory, a day at the beach, a moment of pure love and light. This emotional connection becomes the anchor that allows her to fight back, to expel the demon. It really reframes the battle, not as one of supernatural power, but of human spirit. The final shot of the music box in the Warrens' artifact room, a seemingly benign object now charged with terrifying history, reminds us that every victory leaves a scar, and that the darkness is never truly gone, just, contained. There are horror movie endings, and then there is the ending of. It's honestly one of the most profoundly unsettling, artistically horrifying, and spiritually bleak conclusions ever put to film. Ari Aster doesn't just want to scare you, he wants to dismantle you. The final 15 minutes are a descent into a pagan nightmare from which there's really no escape. Annie, possessed and scuttling across the ceiling like a deranged insect, becomes a puppet in a ritual generations in the making. The sterile dread of the family drama just explodes into full-blown occult horror. The reveal in the treehouse is the stuff of nightmares. Peter, now the unwilling vessel for the demon king Paimon, stumbles into a scene of grotesque worship. The headless, levitating body of his mother, the decapitated corpses of his grandmother, and other cultists bowing in supplication. It's a tableau of absolute desecration. The cult's leader, Joan, places a crown on Peter's head, hailing him as Paimon. The final shot is of the diorama of this horrific scene, reminding us that the entire family was nothing more than miniature figures in a much larger, more malevolent design. There is no hope here. There's only the chilling, perfect execution of a demonic plan. It doesn't just leave you speechless, it leaves you feeling violated. Much like Jordan Peele's uses the grammar of horror to tell a much larger story about society, privilege, and, honestly, the darkness we suppress. The ending delivers a 1-2 punch that totally recontextualizes the entire film. First, we get the visceral, brutal ballet of violence as Adelaide confronts her doppelganger Red in those subterranean tunnels. It's a primal struggle for identity, culminating in Adelaide killing her shadow self. She rescues her son, and the family is reunited, seemingly safe as they drive away from the carnage. But honestly, the true horror comes in the quiet moments of that car ride. Through a chilling flashback, we learn the truth. The woman we've been rooting for, Adelaide, is actually the tethered one. As a child, she dragged the real Adelaide into the tunnels and took her place in the world above. Our hero is the monster. Red was the real victim, left to fester below with a fractured mind, trying to orchestrate a rebellion with the only language she had left. The final shot of Adelaide giving her son a knowing, almost sinister smile as a chain of tethered people stretches across the American landscape is just bone-chilling. The monster isn't coming from below, it was sitting in the front seat the whole time. Ari Aster follows up the bleak darkness of Hereditary with the sun-drenched, pastel-colored horror of Midsommar. The terror here isn't in the shadows. It's in the blinding daylight, in the forced smiles and communal ecstasy of the Harga cult. The ending is a beautiful, deeply disturbing, and bizarrely cathartic spectacle. Danny, broken by grief and betrayed by her emotionally vacant boyfriend Christian, has been slowly indoctrinated by the community. After witnessing Christian's ritualistic infidelity, she breaks down, and the women of the cult surround her, mirroring her screams, sharing her pain in a way no one in her old life ever did. She is crowned the May Queen, and with that power, she must choose the final sacrifice. She chooses Christian. The final sequence is a symphony of folk horror madness. We see Christian, paralyzed and sewn into a disemboweled bear, placed inside the ceremonial temple alongside other sacrifices. As the temple is set ablaze, the cult members wail, a performance of shared agony. And then we see Donnie. Her face, at first contorted in horror, slowly, almost imperceptibly breaks into a wide, beatific smile. She has found her new family, she has purged her trauma in fire. It's a horrifying, twisted, and perversely happy ending that asks us to question the very nature of healing and belonging. For a generation of moviegoers, this is the twist ending. The one that sent an audible gasp through every single theater. M. Night Shyamalan's The Sixth Sense is a quiet, melancholic ghost story. A drama about a troubled boy and the child psychologist trying to help him. The entire film is built on a foundation of misdirection so perfect, so elegant, that the final reveal feels both shocking and, in retrospect, completely inevitable. We've watched Dr. Malcolm Crowe try to reconnect with his wife, who seems distant, cold, and perpetually sad. We've watched him dedicate himself to helping Cole Sear. The ending isn't an action sequence, it's a dawning realization. After Cole tells Malcolm to try talking to his wife while she's asleep, the truth begins to unravel. The dropped wedding ring, the fact that no one else ever speaks directly to him, his wife's breath turning to frost as she speaks of her sadness. And then the final devastating line, "I see dead people." We, like Malcolm, realize he was the ghost all along, a lost soul trying to finish his work before he can move on. It recontextualizes every single scene that came before it, transforming a sad drama into a heartbreaking tragedy. It's a magic trick of the highest order, a twist so powerful it became a cultural phenomenon. The original Saw was a grimy, low-budget masterpiece of tension that launched one of the most successful horror franchises ever. Its power comes not from the elaborate traps that would define later entries, but from its fiendishly clever claustrophobic premise and its jaw-dropping final twist. For the entire film we are locked in a disgusting bathroom with two men, Adam and Dr. Gordon, and what appears to be a dead body lying between them. They are pawns in a twisted game orchestrated by the mysterious Jigsaw killer. The tension ratchets up until Dr. Gordon makes the gruesome choice to saw off his own foot to escape. He crawls away, promising to get help, leaving Adam alone. And then, the true horror begins. The corpse on the floor begins to stir. It slowly, painfully rises to its feet. It's John Kramer, the Jigsaw killer, the quiet cancer patient we met earlier. He was in the room with them the entire time, the architect of their suffering, listening to their every word. His final, chilling line, "Game over," as he slams the door shut, plunging Adam into eternal darkness, is an all-time classic gut punch. It's a reveal that transforms the film from a simple torture flick into a brilliant, terrifying puzzle box. Alfred Hitchcock's broke every rule in the book, from killing its protagonist halfway through, to delivering a finale that remains one of the most chilling in cinema history. After the shocking reveal that the sweet, stuttering Norman Bates is the killer, dressing as his long-dead mummified mother, we get a final scene that digs deep under your skin. We're in a sterile white room. Norman is sitting there, wrapped in a blanket, a faint, unnerving smile on his face. We don't hear his voice, we hear the voice of Mother in his head. The internal monologue is terrifying. Mother explains how she's going to fool them all, how she wouldn't even harm a fly. As she speaks, Norman's smile widens into a knowing, grotesque leer. The camera pushes in, and for a split second the image of his mother's skull is superimposed over his face. It's a moment of pure psychological horror, suggesting that Norman is completely gone, consumed by the persona he created. The final shot of Marion Crane's car being dragged from the swamp offers no comfort. The evil hasn't been contained, it's just been given a name, and it's smiling right at us. Just when you think it's safe to relax, Brian De Palma's delivers one of the most effective and influential jump scares of all time. The film's climax is the bloody, fiery prom night massacre, a telekinetic explosion of righteous fury from a tormented soul. After Carrie unleashes hell on her classmates and crucifies her fanatical mother, she brings the entire house down upon herself. The aftermath is quiet, almost serene. We see Sue Snell, the only survivor with a conscience, racked with guilt and trauma. It feels like a somber, tragic conclusion. Sue approaches Carrie's makeshift grave, a for sale sign spray-painted with "Carrie White burns in hell." She lays flowers down, a final act of penance. The score is gentle, lulling us into a false sense of security. And then it happens. A bloodied hand erupts from the earth, grabbing Sue's arm. It's a primal, heart-stopping shock that yanks you right out of your seat. The reveal that it's just a dream does nothing to calm your racing pulse. It proves that even after death, the trauma of Carrie White is not over. It will haunt the survivors, and the audience, forever. It's the final, perfect punctuation mark on a story of relentless torment. The horror of is a slow, creeping paranoia that builds to a conclusion that is both absurdly grotesque and deeply, spiritually terrifying. Rosemary Woodhouse has been gaslit, drugged, and manipulated by her husband and her seemingly kindly neighbors for the entire film. She rightly believes they are a coven of witches with designs on her unborn child. In the final scene, armed with a butcher knife, she creeps into the neighbor's apartment, ready to save her baby. She finds them all there, cooing over a black bassinet draped in black. She peers inside and her face contorts in horror. Her famous line, "What have you done to it? What have you done to its eyes?" is met with the chillingly proud announcement from Roman Castevet, he has his father's eyes. The baby is the Antichrist, the son of Satan. The true, gut-wrenching horror is Rosemary's reaction. Her maternal instinct overrides her terror. As the baby cries, she pushes past the coven, rocks the cradle, and a faint, resigned smile crosses her face. She has accepted her fate as the mother of the devil. The evil hasn't just won, it has been welcomed with a mother's love. So, is a gothic ghost story that really plays on our expectations with masterful precision, leading to a reveal that's as heartbreaking as it is shocking. We follow Grace, a devoutly religious mother played by Nicole Kidman, who's protecting her photosensitive children from the light in this vast, fog-shrouded mansion. She is convinced the house is haunted, that spectral intruders are tormenting her family. The tension just builds beautifully, relying on atmosphere and suggestion rather than, cheap scares. We're firmly on Grace's side trying to solve the mystery of the others. The climax comes during a seance, where Grace believes she is confronting the ghosts. But here's the thing. The twist is that the others are actually the new living family trying to inhabit the house. Grace and her children are the ghosts. The reveal is devastating. Through a series of fragmented memories, Grace is forced to remember the truth. In a fit of madness and despair, she smothered her children and then took her own life. They're trapped in a purgatory of their own making, and that final shot of them looking out the window, knowing they can never leave as the fog clears to reveal a world they can no longer touch. It's profoundly sad and utterly chilling. There are bleak endings, and then there is the ending of Frank Darabont's. It's a punch to the gut, so vicious, so nihilistic that it just leaves you breathless with despair. After escaping the supermarket and the horrors within, both monstrous and human, David Drayton and a small group of survivors, including his young son, drive through the mist-shrouded landscape. They drive until the car runs out of gas. There is no hope, only the sounds of these colossal, unseen creatures in the fog. They make a pact. David has a gun with 4 bullets. There are 5 of them. In an act of what he believes is mercy, he shoots the other 4, including his own child, to save them from a gruesome death at the hands of the monsters. He steps out of the car, screaming into the mist, begging for the creatures to take him. And then the mist begins to clear. The sounds he hears are not monsters but army trucks, tanks, and soldiers, burning away the mist and rescuing survivors. Had he waited just 5 more minutes, they would all have been saved. The final shot is of David on his knees, screaming in silent, soul-shattering agony. It is perhaps the most cruelly ironic and devastating ending in horror history. Wes Craven's revitalized the slasher genre by, turning it inside out. The ending is not just a thrilling final showdown, it's a meta-commentary on the very rules of horror movies. The reveal of the killer is a brilliant twist on a classic trope. It's not one killer but 2 Sydney's boyfriend Billy and his goofy best friend Stu. Their motive is a twisted mix of slasher movie logic and personal vendetta, a commentary on how media can inspire real-world violence. The final act is a bloody, chaotic party scene that both follows and subverts the rules. The genius of the ending is how Sidney Prescott transforms. She's not a helpless victim. She uses her knowledge of horror movie cliches against her attackers. She becomes the final girl, but an empowered, intelligent one. The final confrontation, with the iconic line "Not in my movie," is a declaration of her survival. The double-tap headshot delivered by Sidney to a possibly still-alive Billy, and Randy's warning that the killer always comes back for one last scare, solidifies the film's self-aware brilliance. It's a bloody, witty, and perfectly executed finale that honors the genre while creating something entirely new. Paranormal Activity brought found footage back to the forefront, proving that what you don't see is often far more terrifying than what you do. The film is a slow burn of escalating dread, documented by a single camera in a suburban bedroom. We watch as Katie and Micah are tormented by an unseen demonic presence. The power of the film is its mundane setting and its patient observational style, making the eventual payoff all the more shocking. The theatrical ending is an explosive release of all that built-up tension. On the final night, Katie gets out of bed, stands and stares at Micah for hours, then goes downstairs. we hear a blood-curdling scream. Micah rushes down. After a terrifying silence, Katie's body is hurled back up the stairs with demonic force, hitting the camera. A moment later, a blood-spattered and possessed Katie crawls into the frame, sniffs the camera and then lunges at it with a horrifyingly evil smile just before the footage cuts. It's a sudden, violent and deeply unsettling end that leaves the audience with a final terrifying image burned into their minds. The ending of the Blair Witch Project is a masterclass in ambiguity and psychological terror. It's what cemented the film as a cultural phenomenon and a found footage pioneer. After days of being lost, tormented by unseen forces, Heather and Mike discover the derelict Rustin Parr house. Their frantic, panicked camera work as they search the house is disorienting and claustrophobic. Heather's tearful, iconic monologue to the camera has already pushed us to the edge of our nerves. The final moments are pure, distilled nightmare fuel. Mike's camera clatters to the floor in the basement. Heather follows his screams, her own camera light cutting through the oppressive darkness, and then she sees it. Mike, standing in the corner, facing the wall, completely motionless. It's a direct reference to the legend they heard earlier of how the killer Rustin Parr would make one child face the corner while he murdered the other. Before we can fully process the horrifying implication, Heather screams. Her camera is knocked to the ground, and the film cuts to black. We are left in the dark with nothing but our own terrifying imagination to fill in the blanks. The horror of it follows is relentless. It's a sexually transmitted curse, a slow-walking, shape-shifting entity that will never stop pursuing you until it kills you or you pass it on. The film creates a constant, low-level hum of anxiety. The monster can look like anyone, and it's always, always coming. The ending doesn't offer a clean resolution or a definitive victory, and that is precisely what makes it so terrifying. Jay and her friends have seemingly defeated the creature, electrocuting and shooting it in a swimming pool. But the final scene denies us that catharsis. We see Jay and her new love interest, Paul, walking down the street, holding hands. They've survived. But then, the camera pulls back. Far in the distance behind them, a figure is walking, slowly but deliberately in their direction. We can't make out who or what it is. Is it the creature, or is it just a random person on the street? The film doesn't tell us. It leaves us with the same paranoia and uncertainty that the characters must now live with for the rest of their lives. The curse might be gone, or it might just be taking its time. The dread follows you right out of the theater. Robert Eggers is a meticulously crafted descent into puritanical paranoia and genuine folk horror. It's a film that asks whether the family's downfall is due to religious hysteria or an actual, tangible evil lurking in the woods. The ending answers with a resounding, terrifying both. After her entire family has been torn apart by suspicion, violence, and the machinations of the witch, the young Thomason is left utterly alone. She has been branded a witch by her own family and now has nowhere to turn. So she embraces it. She goes to the barn and speaks to Black Phillip, the family's goat, whom she now knows to be a manifestation of Satan. "Wouldst thou like to live deliciously?" a seductive demonic voice asks. She agrees. She walks naked into the woods and finds a coven of witches, chanting and levitating around a bonfire in a scene of terrifying, liberating ecstasy. As they begin to float, so does Thomason, a look of awe and horror on her face as she laughs. She has lost everything, but she has found a terrible, powerful new freedom. It's a profoundly unsettling and strangely triumphant conclusion. Feels like a classic haunted house movie for most of its runtime, filled with creepy ghosts and effective jump scares. But the final act, and especially the final few minutes, pulls the rug out from under the audience with a brilliant twist. Josh has journeyed into the spooky, ethereal plane known as the Further to rescue his son Dalton's spirit from the clutches of a lipstick-faced demon. He succeeds, and they both awaken back in their bodies. The family is reunited, safe and sound. It seems like a happy ending, but Psychic Elise, who has been helping them, senses something is wrong. She takes a photo of Josh, and as she looks at it, her face fills with terror. Josh looks over her shoulder. "What is it?" he asks, his voice suddenly cold and unfamiliar. We see what she sees. The photo shows not Josh, but the terrifying old woman in black, the parasite that has been haunting him since his own childhood. He didn't come back from the Further alone. In the film's final shocking moment, he strangles Elise to death. The last thing we hear is his wife scream as she discovers the body. The hero has become the monster. is a film that understands the terrifying power of a found image. The Super 8 home movies that true crime writer Ellison Oswalt discovers are some of the most genuinely disturbing sequences in modern horror. Each one depicts a gruesome family murder, filmed by an unseen presence. The film builds an atmosphere of almost unbearable dread, as Ellison descends deeper into the mystery, believing he's tracking a serial killer, when in fact he's being targeted by a pagan deity, Boghul, who consumes the souls of children. The ending is a cruel and inevitable trap. Ellison finally moves his family away from the house, believing he's broken the pattern. But the pattern wasn't tied to the house, it was tied to the images themselves. His young daughter, now possessed, drugs the family. Ellison wakes up bound and gagged. His daughter, holding an axe, says, "Don't worry, Daddy, I'll make you famous again," before we see her gruesome handiwork through the lens of her own Super 8 camera. The final awful shot is of the box of home movies in the attic, now with a new reel added, as the ghostly children stare at the screen and Boghul himself lunges at the camera. Evil doesn't just win, it creates a franchise. The Descent is a masterwork of claustrophobic primal terror. A group of female friends on a caving expedition become trapped and are then hunted by a pack of blind subterranean creatures. The film is as much about the breakdown of their friendships as it is about the monsters. The ending is a point of contention, as the US and UK cuts are different, but honestly, the original UK ending is far superior in its bleak, hopeless horror. In this version, our final girl, Sarah, manages to escape the caves, scrambling up a mountain of bones to daylight. She makes it to the road, flags down a car, and speeds away. She pulls over, vomiting, a mess of blood and trauma. She sees a vision of her dead friend Juno sitting beside her and she screams. But then, the camera pulls back. Sarah is not in the car. She is still in the cave. The escape was a hallucination, a final, desperate fantasy before her mind completely breaks. She is now sitting in the darkness, imagining her dead daughter holding a birthday cake. As she smiles at the vision, the camera pulls back further, revealing she is completely surrounded by the crawlers, their chittering sounds growing louder. There is no escape, there is only the dark. The Cabin in the Woods is a brilliant, loving deconstruction of the entire horror genre. For most of the film, we watch a group of college kids fall victim to familiar tropes, all while being manipulated by technicians in a high-tech underground facility. The final act blows the doors off the whole operation, literally. The two survivors, Dana and Marty, discover the facility and unleash every single monster, from werewolves to ghosts to the Sugar Plum Fairy, in a glorious, bloody rampage against their captors. But the true genius is the final reveal. They are not just part of a sick game, they are part of a ritual sacrifice to appease ancient slumbering gods, the Ancient Ones. To save the world, the virgin Dana must kill or outlive the fool Marty. They refuse. In a moment of defiant nihilism, they decide that humanity, a species that would sacrifice its children in such a grotesque reality show, is not worth saving. They share a joint as the facility crumbles around them, and the final shot is of a colossal ancient hand erupting from the earth, destroying everything. It's a hilarious, apocalyptic, and strangely satisfying middle finger to the entire system. John Carpenter's Halloween created the template for the modern slasher film, and its ending is a masterclass in building and sustaining terror. After a relentless night of stalking and killing, Michael Myers, the Shape, finally corners Laurie Strode. Dr. Loomis arrives just in time, shooting Michael 6 times, knocking him off a second-story balcony. Laurie looks over the edge, her face a mask of terror and relief. The monster is dead. The nightmare is over. But when Loomis looks down, the body is gone. There's only an imprint in the grass where he fell. The iconic Halloween theme kicks in as we cut to a montage of all the places Michael has been. The empty hallway, the dark closet, the quiet suburban street. All we hear is his heavy, rhythmic breathing. He could be anywhere. He is not just a man. He is, as Loomis has insisted all along, the boogeyman. He is evil incarnate, and you can't kill the boogeyman. The ending offers no closure, only the terrifying certainty that he is still out there in the shadows, waiting. It's an ending that created a legend. So, is often remembered for Jason Voorhees, but honestly, in the original film, he's barely a presence at all. The real killer is his vengeful mother, Pamela Voorhees, seeking revenge for her son's drowning years earlier. The final girl, Alice, endures a brutal fight for her life, and it all culminates in this shocking and pretty gruesome scene where she decapitates Mrs. Voorhees with a machete right on the shores of Crystal Lake. As the sun rises, Alice, just totally exhausted and traumatized, pushes a canoe out onto the placid lake, hoping for some safety in the calm water. The police eventually arrive on the shore. The music gets all soft and dreamlike. Alice is safe. The audience relaxes. And that's exactly when Sean S. Cunningham delivers one of the greatest jump scares in history. The decomposed, ghoulish body of the boy, Jason, suddenly erupts from the water, grabbing Alice and pulling her under. It's a shocking, heart-stopping moment that comes from absolutely nowhere. Then we cut to Alice waking up in a hospital asking about the boy, only to be told there was no boy found. That leaves us with a chilling question. Was it a dream? A hallucination? Or was Jason always there waiting at the bottom of the lake? It's the scare that launched a franchise. Tobe Hooper's is, well, less a movie, and more like an assault on the senses. It's this grimy, sun-bleached, relentless nightmare. The final sequence is not really a moment of triumph, but more like pure hysterical survival. Our final girl, Sally, escapes the Sawyer family's house of horrors, just a screaming bloody mess. She bursts out onto the highway, with the monstrous Leatherface and the hitchhiker right behind her. The hitchhiker is run over by a truck, and then the truck driver confronts Leatherface, who's just wildly swinging his chainsaw. In all that chaos, Sally manages to scramble into the back of a passing pickup truck. She is safe, at least for now. The final shots are iconic, and, honestly, deeply disturbing. We see Sally, covered in blood, laughing hysterically in the back of the truck as it speeds away. The laughter of someone whose mind has, completely shattered. And out there on the highway, silhouetted against the rising sun, Leatherface performs his bizarre, frustrated chainsaw dance, swinging that roaring weapon in a ballet of impotent rage. There is no victory here, just trauma and madness. The sun has risen, but the darkness will never leave Sally's mind. Nicholas Rogues is really a haunting meditation on grief, wrapped up in the guise of a psychological thriller. John and Laura Baxter are in Venice, mourning the recent drowning of their young daughter. John keeps seeing this small figure in a red raincoat, identical to the one his daughter was wearing when she died. He becomes obsessed, convinced it's his daughter's ghost, trying to warn him of danger. The film just builds this atmosphere of melancholy dread, using the winding streets and canals of Venice to mirror John's own fractured psyche. The climax is a devastating twist of perception. John chases the red-coated figure into a desolate palazzo. He corners it and says, "I'm your friend," gently. The figure turns around and it's not his daughter. It's a hideous, dwarfish woman, a serial killer the police have been hunting. She pulls out a meat cleaver and slashes his throat. As he lies dying, his life flashes before his eyes in this fragmented montage. And he finally understands the psychic premonitions he's been having all along. He wasn't seeing his daughter's ghost, he was seeing his own funeral. The red coat was not a warning from the past, but a harbinger of his own imminent violent death. Takashi Miike's is a film that famously lulls you into a false sense of security before pulling the rug out and revealing a torture chamber underneath. For its first hour it plays like a gentle, quirky romantic drama. Aoyama, a lonely widower, holds a fake film audition to find a new wife. He becomes infatuated with the quiet, enigmatic Asami. He ignores all the red flags, blinded by his desire for a perfect, submissive partner. The final 30 minutes are an unforgettably brutal and surreal descent into body horror. Asami, feeling betrayed, paralyzes Aoyama with a drug. The scene that follows is notoriously difficult to watch. With a sweet sing-song voice, she tortures him, inserting needles into his body and severing his foot with a wire saw, all while chanting "Kiri, Kiri, Kiri," deeper, deeper, deeper. The sequence is intercut with surreal, nightmarish flashbacks that blur the line between what is real and what is a hallucination. It's a shocking, visceral, and deeply misogynistic fantasy turned on its head, a horrifying punishment for one man's selfish desires. It's an ending that you don't just watch, you endure. Produced by Guillermo del Toro, is a heartbreaking and beautiful ghost story that prioritizes emotion over cheap scares. Laura returns to her childhood home, an old orphanage, with her husband and their adopted son, Simon. When Simon disappears after an argument, Laura becomes convinced that the spirits of her childhood friends have taken him. She dedicates herself to finding him, even as her husband believes she is losing her mind. The ending is a gut-wrenching tragedy. Following the rules of a childhood game, Laura finally finds what she's been looking for. She discovers a hidden room in the basement where Thomas, a deformed boy she knew as a child, was hidden away. And there, she finds Simon's body. In a terrible accident, he had fallen, gotten trapped, and died on the very day he disappeared. Her frantic search for him had been the cause. Overcome with grief, Laura swallows a bottle of pills, begging for the spirits to return so she can be with her son one last time. Her wish is granted. In death, she is reunited with Simon and the other ghost children, finally able to care for them forever. It is a profoundly sad and hauntingly beautiful conclusion. Is a masterclass in slow-burn paranoia, a dinner party from hell where the tension is the main course. Will arrives at a dinner party hosted by his ex-wife Eden and her new husband David. The party is a reunion of old friends, but it's tainted by the memory of Will and Eden's son, who died tragically years before. Will is on edge, sensing that something is deeply wrong. The hosts are too calm, their talk of a new age group called The Invitation is unsettling, and their smiles feel forced. Is Will just projecting his own grief and paranoia, or is there a genuine threat? The film keeps you guessing until the final explosive moments. Will's fears are confirmed in the most brutal way possible. The hosts lock the doors, poison the wine, and begin to attack their guests. It's a cult, and this isn't a dinner party. It's a mass suicide and murder ritual designed to free them from their pain. After a violent, chaotic struggle, Will and the other survivors manage to get outside. They stand in the garden catching their breath, and then they look out over the Hollywood Hills. One by one they see other houses, each with a single red lantern burning on the porch, the same lantern their hosts had lit. It's a chilling, expansive reveal. This wasn't just one dinner party, it's happening all over the city. The original is, honestly, the undisputed king of folk horror, a film whose unsettling atmosphere and pagan strangeness all build up to one of the most iconic and horrifying endings ever filmed. So, here's the story. The devoutly Christian Sergeant Howie arrives on this remote Scottish island called Summerisle to investigate the disappearance of a young girl. But instead of getting answers, he's met with this community of cheerful, sexually liberated pagans who, just stonewall his investigation at every turn. He becomes convinced he's uncovering a conspiracy to sacrifice the missing girl. But then comes the final twist. It's honestly brilliant and cruel. There is no missing girl. The islanders faked her disappearance to lure a very specific type of sacrifice to their shores, a virgin, a fool, and a representative of the king, a policeman. Howie was the intended victim all along. The final sequence is just unforgettable. The islanders, all in these grotesque animal masks, drag the screaming Howie to a giant Wicker Man effigy and lock him inside. As they set it ablaze and sing this joyful folk song to their sun god, we're forced to listen as Howie's terrified prayers turn into screams of agony. It's a truly terrifying depiction of faith versus faith, a hopeless, horrifying end for a man who honestly never stood a chance. The horror of, and I'm talking about both the Japanese original and its American remake, is not just a single monster or ghost, but this relentless viral curse. It's born of a powerful rage, and it infects the place where a tragedy happened. Anyone who enters becomes a new victim, and then the curse just spreads from there. The film's non-linear structure really ramps up that sense of inescapable doom, showing us how different characters get ensnared by the curse of Kayako and Toshio. And the ending of the American remake gives us absolutely no relief. Just this chilling confirmation of what the curse really is. Karen, our protagonist, survives and even burns the house down, thinking she's destroyed the evil. She's in the hospital, grieving her dead boyfriend. But the horror isn't tied to the physical house. As she looks at his body in the morgue, she sees Kayako's ghostly form crawling toward her. The curse has followed her. It's not something you can fight or destroy, it's something you catch. The final scare just drives it home. There is no escape. The rage is eternal, and it will always somehow find a new host. David Cronenberg's is, without a doubt, a masterpiece of body horror, but it's also honestly a deeply tragic love story. The transformation of scientist Seth Brundle from this brilliant, charming guy into the grotesque Brundlefly is a slow, horrifying, and surprisingly emotional journey. We watch, right alongside his horrified lover Veronica, as his body and mind decay, piece by piece. He's not a monster in the traditional sense, he's really a victim of his own hubris, a man trapped inside a mutating prison of flesh and insect DNA. The finale is just a heartbreaking and disgusting opera of tragedy. Brundle's final desperate move is to try to merge himself, Veronica, and their unborn child into one perfect family using the telepods. Veronica fights back, and the teleportation goes horribly, horribly wrong. The creature that emerges is this mangled, horrific fusion of Brundle and the metal telepod itself. It crawls from the wreckage, a pathetic, dying thing. It lifts a clawed hand, holding a shotgun to its own head, silently begging Veronica for a mercy kill. Through tears, she grants his wish. It's a grotesque, gut-wrenching, and profoundly sad ending to one of horror's greatest tragedies. So is a classy, prestige horror film that treats the arrival of the Antichrist with the chilling gravitas of a political thriller. Ambassador Robert Thorne slowly comes to realize that his adopted son Damien is not just a child but the literal son of the devil, destined to bring about the apocalypse. After everyone who gets too close to the truth dies in a series of spectacular accidents, Thorne accepts his terrible duty. He must kill the child. The climax is a frantic, desperate race against time. Thorne drags the screaming Damien to a church intending to kill him on the altar with the sacred daggers of Megiddo. But just as he raises the dagger, he is shot and killed by the police. The film then cuts to the aftermath, a presidential funeral. We see the President of the United States holding the hand of the new ward he has taken in. The camera pans over to reveal Damien. He turns, looks directly into the camera, and gives a small, knowing, chilling smile. Evil has not been vanquished. It has failed upward, adopted by the most powerful man in the world. The apocalypse is right on schedule. Is a rare horror film that swept the Oscars, and for good reason. It's a taut, brilliant thriller that is as much about the psychological cat-and-mouse game between Clarice Starling and Hannibal Lecter as it is about catching the serial killer Buffalo Bill. The ending provides two distinct moments of closure, one satisfying and one deeply unnerving. Clarice confronts and kills Buffalo Bill in his subterranean lair, rescuing his final victim. She has faced her monster and won. She graduates as a full-fledged FBI agent, but the true final scene belongs to Hannibal the Cannibal. Sometime later, at her graduation party, Clarice receives a phone call. It's Lecter, calling from a sunny tropical location. He asks her if the lambs have stopped screaming. He assures her he has no plans to pursue her, as the world is more interesting with her in it. But then he ends the call with one of the most iconic and chilling lines in film history. "I'm having an old friend for dinner." The camera follows his gaze to Dr. Chilton, his former tormentor, disembarking from a plane. Lecter hangs up the phone and begins to follow him into the crowd. The monster is free and he's still hungry. John Carpenter's is a masterpiece of paranoia and cosmic dread. An alien life form that can perfectly imitate any living creature it assimilates terrorizes a remote Antarctic research station. The true horror is not the creature's grotesque transformations, but the psychological toll it takes on the men, who can no longer trust their own eyes or each other. Who is human? Who is the thing? The question drives them to madness and violence. The ending is a quiet, bleak, and perfectly ambiguous masterpiece. The entire station has been destroyed in fire and explosions. The only two survivors are MacReady, our hero, and Childs, another member of the crew who had disappeared earlier. They sit in the freezing, burning wreckage, sharing a bottle of whiskey, both men exhausted and freezing to death. Neither one knows if the other is human. They can't trust each other, but they are too tired to fight. "Why don't we just wait here for a little while?" MacReady says, "See what happens." They share a laugh of pure, hopeless exhaustion. The film ends on their frozen faces, leaving the audience with the ultimate, unanswered question. The Spanish found footage film is honestly a relentless, high-octane nightmare. A television reporter, Angela, and her cameraman are trapped inside a quarantined apartment building during a zombie-like outbreak. The film's single-camera perspective creates an unparalleled sense of immediacy and claustrophobia. We are trapped with them, experiencing the escalating chaos and terror in real time. The final act takes them to the penthouse apartment, the source of the infection. The power cuts out, plunging them into darkness. They are forced to navigate the apartment using only the camera's night vision. This is where the film delivers its most terrifying creation. They discover that the original patient Zero was a girl named Tristana Medeiros who was possessed and experimented on by a Vatican priest. Then, they hear a sound. The cameraman pans over to reveal a horrifyingly emaciated skeletal figure, Tristana, shambling around the room. The sequence that follows, as this creature hunts them in the pitch-black attic, is one of the most terrifying in found footage history. The final shot is of Angela being dragged into the darkness, her screams cut short as the camera falls to the floor, still recording. Sam Raimi's is a gleefully nasty, over-the-top horror comedy that feels like a throwback to his days. Loan officer Christine Brown evicts an old woman, Mrs. Ganoush, to impress her boss, and in return, she is cursed by the Lamia, a powerful demon that will torment her for 3 days before dragging her to hell. The film is a fun, gross-out ride as Christine tries everything to break the curse. The ending is a cruel, brilliant bait-and-switch. Christine believes she has successfully passed the curse on by burying a cursed button with the corpse of Mrs. Ganesh. She meets her boyfriend Clay at the train station, ready to start their life together. Everything is fine, he's about to propose. But then he hands her something she left in his car, the envelope with the cursed button. She realizes in a moment of pure, sickening horror that she mixed up the envelopes and buried an old coin instead. The ground cracks open, fiery hands erupt from the tracks, and she is, quite literally, dragged, screaming into a fiery pit to hell, right in front of her horrified boyfriend. It's a shocking, bleakly funny, and wonderfully literal ending. The concept of the series is its greatest strength: you can't cheat death. The first film establishes this terrifyingly simple rule. After Alex Browning has a premonition of his flight exploding, he and a group of his classmates get off the plane, only to watch it explode as he predicted. But death doesn't like to be cheated. One by one, the survivors are picked off in a series of elaborate Rube Goldberg-esque accidents. Death itself is the invisible slasher. The ending cements the franchise's core theme of inevitability. The remaining survivors, Alex, Clear, and Carter, believe they have finally beaten the design by saving each other. They are in Paris 6 months later, finally able to relax and toast to their survival. But as they talk, Alex realizes death's design is not over. It was simply skipping them to come back around. He sees the signs all around them. A bus, a falling sign. A chain reaction begins. Carter saves Alex from a giant swinging sign, only for the sign to swing back around and obliterate Carter. The cycle is not broken. There is no escape. Death always, always wins. It's a chilling reminder that our fates are sealed, no matter how fast we run. And there you have it. 42 final frames of fear. 42 reasons to check the locks, to look over your shoulder, to be suspicious of that faint smile on a loved one's face. From the existentially bleak to the viscerally shocking, these endings are more than just plot twists. They are cinematic scars. They are the moments that prove horror, at its best, isn't about what makes you jump. It's about what follows you out of the theater, what sits with you in the dark, what whispers to you long after the credits have rolled. My face is definitely not straight, and I suspect yours isn't either. The abyss stared back, and it was beautiful. These are the stories that stay with us, the nightmares we choose to revisit. They remind us that sometimes there is no escape, that evil can wear a familiar face, and that the most terrifying monster is often an idea, a question without an answer, a cycle without an end, a joke with a punchline that costs you your soul. The beauty of horror is its ability to take our deepest anxieties and project them onto the screen, and a great ending is the final, perfect reflection of that fear. It's a shared trauma that in a strange way connects us all. But that's just my list. The landscape of fear is vast and personal. What ending left you completely shattered? What final image is burned into your memory? Let me know in the comments below. I want to hear about the movie that broke you, the one that you still can't shake. And if you're ready to dive back into the darkness, I've got another video right here on the scariest horror movies of all time. A journey through the films that built the very foundation of fright. Until next time, try to get some sleep.